gorgeous websites, but the regular person doesn't know where to click if you don't tell them.
Right.
Right? So I had one client recently, she installed something called Hotjar, which is free, which you can install, and it actually will monitor somebody visiting your website. It looks like a crayon, it looks like this little pencil, and she realizes that people were not clicking in her thumbnails that were clickable, they would stop. So she's like, what do I have to do? I have to change that. So it's important to track how people are interacting on your website, on your social media. What's working, what's not working. Because what's working, I need to do more of that. What's not working, I need to change.
Yep, right.
Absolutely.
It's like on our website, we have a link to our Booksy, that's our booking app. And at first, you know, we had to transfer everybody over from old school, like I'll just call or, you know, leave a message and, hey, can you get me in such and such time? And at first people were like, no, I'm not gonna do that, but then I kept pushing the point, you know, to let them, this is modern world now. So people started to click, not knowing who we were, reading our reviews, and then going from that to the next page, which is the booking app. And then they would be out of state, you know, out of the country, and they would go and book. And I'm like, wow. And then you have to put your credit card. So even though that didn't stop them, because they knew that the reviews spoke for itself. And as far as you saying numbers, I'm a numbers guy. I constantly look at our Google My Business app.
Yes.
And we had like almost at a 60% conversion rate from.
Nice.
Wow.
That's
yeah,
amazing.
which is amazing, yeah.
That's amazing.
Because, you know, I remember when we first hired our first marketer, the first thing they told us was, wow, your SEO is powerful.
Mm-hmm.
So then that raised a red flag for me, because I said, if they're telling me what it is, then I knew that basically these people were going on Google and they were picking random businesses and they were calling because they were getting a lot of hits on that.
Mm-hmm.
So they weren't doing their homework as far as what my numbers were. They were just feeding off of what was already there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I was like, oh wow. Then after that, I started to see them doing that, you know, and I'm like, so they would call, hey, your Google's not working properly. And
Yeah,
I'm like,
it's a scam.
yeah, it was a scam.
So, I'm sorry to cut you off. So, Fusa, if I wake up this morning and I don't know anything about marketing, and I'm looking for a marketer, and how can we find you?
Okay. Well, I think if you wake up, or if you have a business, you're starting a business, you need to understand that there is a lot of things that you could do on your own. So I'm always about like work with what you have until you can get to that next level. So for example, WordPress platform is the best for SEO. But if you're on Wix, if you are on Weebly, if you are in Squarespace, you gotta work with what you have because they all have SEO features, right? So then you save up to hire a designer, to hire a marketeer, you know, to hire. So I think it depends, you know, how much time you have, right? Because you're either investing resources, money, or you're investing time. So let's say, you know, you totally...
Would you say WordPress is probably the most popular one?
A self-hosted WordPress.
Okay.
So it's not WordPress.com, it's WordPress.org where you buy your domain name,
Okay.
and then you have to pay for hosting. So it's kind of like, it's like
That's what we
paying
have.
rent.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, and paying for your hosting. So I think if you want to launch your website, you know, that's the first thing you need to do, get a self-hosted website. You can GoDaddy, you can buy your domain name,
right.
and in hosting, basic hosting, it's very cheap. It's very easy today to, it's changed a lot. It used to be a lot harder, but now it's really easy to get a website up, you know? So my blog is Get Found with Fuse, F-U-S-E, so that's where I started really helping photographers at first.
Right.
So my specialty is more for local businesses, local service-based business, so more local SEO. There is a difference between local SEO and SEO. So the general SEO, right, it doesn't have a local modifier, right? So how will Google know that I'm talking about Cars, the movie, or, you know, a car to buy near me, right?
Nice.
So there's local modifiers, right? So there's local things. So I specialize in local SEO. So one thing you mentioned, and a huge trick that I have for anyone listening, if you have a business, even if it's service-based and you don't have an actual shop like you guys do, Google My Business. That's the #1 place that you should be spending your time on.
Yep.
It makes up about 25% of local SEO by itself.
Nice.
Wow.
So that would be the first place, which means fill out your listing. It's totally free to do. Put your services there, put your hours. If you work from home, they give you an option for you to hide your address. They still need to know your address and they will send you a postcard. But, so for example, a photographer or somebody that does maybe cakes from their home for now, you know? You can hide your address, but it's really important to get reviews there because that's such a local, you know, locally when people are looking in your area, you're gonna come up first.
Right.
So that's like probably the number one thing I would tell you. If you're not, and you gotta be involved, you need to update photos. So if you have photos from like 3 years ago, that's not good. And you also need to use Google Posts, which is a feature that Google My Business has, which is kind of like a social media post, where you could put offers, coupons, events. It's really good for events, if you guys
Right.
post a lot of events, because that gets picked up by Google really easily. So that would be the number one place I'd probably tell you after having a website, because you do need a website. These people that say, oh, you only need an Instagram. No, you don't own Instagram, but your website, I call it your home, right? It's your voice.
Yes.
So I think the goal of marketing is always to bring people back to your brand. So where's your brand being showcased the most?
But no, in fact, like even a bank, like say you have a company, they ever want to give you a loan or like credit, what do? Is like, I think it's called Spider or something, the cyber
Yeah.
Spider. They immediately, when you apply with them, they check
Mm-hmm.
how, if you have an 800 number, if you have a website,
Yes,
if your address, if it's
it's
a
matching,
home address,
should
if it's
be
matching,
matching.
it just automatically comes up. So if that tells you, if banks still look at that, then obviously,
Google is too.
yeah, yeah.
It's
So
important.
it's not that, you know, I don't think it should be either or. You know, I mean, I think, yeah, I mean, website is important because it's still sort of your
home base.
yeah,
It's
it's your
like-
home
it's like,
base.
are you
It's in your
professional?
right, it's your cyber home. Yeah, like are you credible?
Are you really a business?
Right, you credible.
Right.
And then that could be a way to just, I guess, latch on some of the other platforms you have.
Sure.
You know, like a lot of people have, you know, their Instagram and all that listed
Yes,
anyway.
absolutely.
Right.
But that should definitely be, I totally agree with that. As far as like our podcast, you know, one of the things I was also excited to have you on is because, you know, we're fairly new. We're about 2 months, 2.5 months.
Podcasts have great SEO.
So it's always, so we're naturally, I know us too, are naturally curious to learn a lot
Right.
more, especially from this. But, so you said you were into photography, but you would, I guess, would you get hired to do certain events? Or you would do photography to get your work into a gallery, or all the above?
So at the time, I really wanted to focus on wedding photography. So
Right.
it was for weddings. Like I was a wedding photographer for 9 years. So at the time, that was kind of, you know, my specialty or my niche, I guess you could call
Right.
it. It's
Right.
important. Niches are important, right?
Yes.
They say the riches are in the niches.
Yes.
So at the time it was, you know, it was like, I really wanted to kind of shift from family and portraits to weddings,
Right.
and I wanted to be found by wedding venues. So that was the route that I did, and that was the keywords, right? Because SEO is a lot about text. So
Right.
it's text related to your website, your services, your podcast, your description of your podcast, the description of the episode. Because what search engines do is with the spiders and stuff, they want to basically verify, are you really what you say you are, right?
Yeah.
Because I have my clients, they're coming to my search engine, and I need to make sure that you're the best fit, right?
For
So
them.
are you really a barber salon? Or is your website
Right.
talking about music?
Right.
So it's like, so for example, how does Google know that you're looking up bass fishing versus the base? They're both spelled the same. It's context. So it's called LSI in the SEO world. So it's context. So the more, so if my page has other keywords like fishing, ocean, Google's gonna understand, hey, it's not bass playing, right? So the context is really important, and that's
Right.
why text is gonna be really important on websites, on social media, on podcasts. That's gonna change very soon because we are moving towards voice search, so there's a lot
Yeah.
of buzz
I've seen that.
about like how that's affecting, you know, how we search. So for example, my children, they don't type, my kids,
They use the
it's all
mic.
voice, right?
A 3.5-year-old with the Comcast, with the control, she says, YouTube,
Yeah.
Netflix.
Alexa, yeah, I know.
She's
Like,
3.5.
Fire stick, you could do that too.
It's
Right.
3.5. So.
And when we talk, we use longer tail keywords, right? When we're typing, it's like Italian restaurant. But when we're speaking, it'd be like, hey Google, Italian restaurant near me, Italian restaurant near the mall. So it's
Right.
longer. So
Right.
that is kind of also, so a lot of the SEO world, you know, we're buzzing that it's gonna change, it's gonna
Right.
evolve, and they say that it's evolving towards really branding,
Right.
so the
Yeah,
importance of a brand.
That's actually one of the reasons why I stuck with the same colors that we have the podcast is the same colors we have for the barber salon.
Mm-hmm.
Because I read up on that it's better to have, you know, things that relate to each other.
Yes,
Like
sister brands.
yeah. So what I did was with this logo, that's what I did, and
It's
then
recognizable.
right, and then also I have other pages which are landing pages, which are they run through the Google, and because we have such a high rate of people going through our Google My
Right.
page, then this is all getting affected through the Instagram because people go on Google first, then they
Yes,
go
and
onto
they go-
social media.
yes, for
You know,
sure.
yeah, so then I did 2 pages that, one is like a barber community, and then another one is like part of,
Perform.
it's more like like a ministry page where I
Okay.
put stuff about God, and basically that is all into my network, built in, so it goes, all those people go through all that, and that helps everything come up at the same time.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so I learned that from like just going on YouTube and seeing that, and I was like, well, let me just do this, and it worked. So
Good.
it's been really good.
And have you done some research or perhaps worked in the, I guess, entertainment world, music world? Like, where do you see this optimization, you know, world, you know, helping or increasing in the music world and entertainment?
I think that's a very interesting question, and something recently that came up was that new movie, I guess it's Marvel, the Harley Quinn movie.
Okay.
So they actually, since it had a really bad opening on the weekend, the movie was called something else. They renamed the movie, and they actually had to work on SEO and even paid ads because
Wow.
people didn't realize that it was that character. So even big brands, right, spend money on optimization organically or even, you know, paid, because things are changing. You know, traditional advertising is out, right? TV is dead. Nobody's like waiting Wednesday to watch American Idol. They're
Right.
going to YouTube and watching whatever.
Yeah.
And the TV industry knows that, right? Like they either gotta, you know,
Either adjust or,
Adjust
kinda,
or
you know,
look at
cut
all
their
these-
losses. Or
look at all these stores going bankrupt. Why? Because they were not able to monetize the whole online shopping,
Right.
right? Amazon really has kind of taken that.
You got a
And-
grip on it.
I mean, Toys R Us could have been huge if they would have really gone that route, but
Right.
they didn't ride the wave. You gotta ride the wave, right? They didn't ride the wave, and unfortunately, one of the best shops ever closed,
Absolutely.
Right.
you know?
Right.
So
That's
it's
true.
like, there's all these things changing. So I think, you know, right now what I see is there's just a lot of competition, right? Because it's good and bad, because the good is anyone now can be a star.
Right.
Right? Like
Yep.
YouTube, anyone. Look, I saw that girl, she's like 14, she invented some dance on TikTok, like all the celebrities are doing it. You know, choreography on TikTok. She did a TikTok, and
Right.
now she's like on Ellen,
Right.
right? So the doors are wide open.
Standing.
It's like
Uh-huh.
the wild, wild west. The internet is the wild, wild west.
Yes.
Podcasting, people have not caught up to it yet.
No.
So whoever gets
Now
ahead of
it's-
it now
Yeah.
is really good,
Right.
because, you know, it's a growing thing. We want on-demand things. I love listening to podcasts when I'm going on trips, when I'm going on long, you know, and
exercise, whatever. You just
yeah, me
you know,
too. At the gym, I listen to podcasts. So, you know, podcasts are not going away,
No.
for example. So I think with entertainment world, they have to start being creative,
Right.
right? So how even big brands are spending money. What are they doing? Now there's influencer marketing. There's all these other things like that can be done. I mean, let's look at DJ Khaled. Like,
Right.
I learned about him because of Snapchat, not because of his music, no
Right.
offense.
Right.
But I didn't know who he was before.
Absolutely.
You know, another one.
And it's all about buzz. I mean,
It
it could even be, he probably isn't the best artist or whatever it is, but just because I mean, I am a fan of his, but I'm saying, you could be basically
I'm a huge marketing fan of his.
Yeah.
Right, I'm saying, but what I'm
Yeah.
saying, you could be a mediocre artist, but a great marketer,
Right.
and that's what's happening.
Right.
And you can see it everywhere. You can
Yeah.
see it in every realm. Like
And you know, touching back to the subject you saying about, you know, the artists and all that. You know, I have a client that I don't know if you've heard, but his name is Jay Cortez. He's a new upcoming artist from Puerto Rico, reggaeton artist. And his father comes to the shop and the mother, and I cut his nephew. And one of the things that he was telling me that I didn't know, he's like, oh, you know that he got a deal with Reebok. And I'm like, wow, he just started. And he's like, oh yeah, they send those to my house all the time. And
Wow.
he doesn't even wear them, and he has to go, because of the contract, he has to go back to New York every year to do like a new commercial. So I Googled it, and then I went to YouTube and I saw a lot of stuff that he's doing, and he's even getting